there guys! How are you enjoying Kong Skull Island so far? I haven't seen it yet myself, but I certainly want to. I mean, come on, it's King Kong! It's the original giant movie monster. It's the star of one of the most technologically important movies ever made. In fact, with how important this ape is to the film industry, it's kind of amazing that more movies haven't been made. Like, I can only think of the original and the 2005 remake, and now this one. You'd think there'd be many more movies than that. And of course there fucking are, I'm just messing with you. But I had you going for a second, didn't I? To make a long story short, King Kong has been the center of many legal battles, and outside of a sequel called Son of Kong in 1933, a remake in 1976, a sequel to that remake in 1986, and the Peter Jackson remake from 2005, there have been an absolute boatload of poorly done rip-offs of one kind or another. Hell, there's even one called Queen Kong. Because nothing screams girl power like a giant hairy gorilla, right ladies?
And you would stop your yelling rape if I were just an ordinary household ape.
Probably the most fun part of his history is his Japanese career, however. In 1962 we had the honor of battling Godzilla in, what else? King Kong vs. Godzilla, a ridiculously fun romp between two of the most famous monsters in all of popular culture. But we're not talking about that one. We're going one car further down the weird train to find the second time Toho made a King Kong movie. See, in 1966, Toho Animation and Rankin Bass, who among other things created the 1980 Return of the King movie, worked together to create a cartoon called The King Kong Show. Seeing that it had decent success, they then decided to loosely adapt it into a live-action movie. And the result of that was King Kong Escapes from 1967, a fairly bizarre entry in an already strange and convoluted franchise. And with the King back in theaters, I can think of no better time to watch this thing. So let's all lean back and enjoy some half-Japanese monkey business. The movie begins on Mondo Island, where a giant mechanical King Kong duplicate is being built by an evil scientist. He intends to use it to mine out a valuable material creatively called Element X for an unspecified government represented by a woman by the name of, and hold on to your hats here, Madame Piranha, in order to help them get a leg up on the worldwide nuclear arms race.
I shall soon let my Kong show you that he can certainly do the job.
Obtain Element X, Doctor Who, and you succeed.
Excuse me, Dr. What?
Doctor Who.
Dr. When?
Doctor Who.
Dr. Why though?
Doctor Who.
Oh man, Dr. Wow. Surprisingly, he really does have no connection with the British sci-fi franchise. Doctor Who was largely unknown outside of Britain at the time, and the character was already featured in the King Kong show, so this actually is most likely just a really funny coincidence. Anyway, William Hartnell here and his crew get ready to start mining.
We are ready, Doctor.
Hey, can someone give this man a cough drop and take him back to the retirement home he obviously escaped from? Mechanicong, as it is affectionately called by fans, is dropped down a crater and starts digging towards a huge chunk of Element X, but the radiation from it short-circuits the robot. This naturally puts Patrick Troughton in a bit of trouble with Madame Piranha and her employers. Meanwhile, a nearby American submarine is caught in a rock slide and decides to stop at the island with their flying car that they had on the sub. Commander Carl Nelson, his buddy Jiro, and their onboard nerd Susan Watson decide to get off and explore the place, curious about the legends of a giant ape living here. When warned by a native that they are trespassing on the island, however, the men decide to explore on their own.
Susan, you'd better wait here.
Alone?
You're safer here.
Outside of the sub. In the middle of the jungle. Alone. Unarmed. With what we assume to be a 60-foot gorilla on the loose. Okay, bye! Of course, it takes approximately 3 seconds for a monstrous dinosaur, known to kaiju fans as none other than Gorosaurus, to show up, causing Susan to scream her head off. It's a good thing she does too, as it wakes up Kong, who comes to her aid. Oh my god! Okay, I know Kong always had this loves the human ladies thing going on, but that is freaking hysterical. Still, if you ask me, it actually makes for a better live-action Beauty and the Beast trailer than the actual live-action Beauty and the Beast trailer.
Both a little scared, neither one prepared, Beauty and the Beast.
Anyway, Kong is instantly smitten with Susan and decides to give Gorosaurus a piece of his mind. Whoa, looks like somebody took a self-defense class or two.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
Naturally, after a bit of a scuffle, Kong wrestles Gorosaurus to the ground and starts just absolutely beating the shit out of him. Stop stealing my bananas, you Kremling fuck! After the fight, Carl and his crew return to the States to report their findings, as well as their intentions to take the same crew back to the island for more research. One woman in the audience has a question though.
Kong was apparently gentle with Lieutenant Watson. May I ask why?
You see, as ridiculous as it may sound, Kong is a male, and Miss Watson is... Well, see for yourselves, gentlemen.
He is right though, it is ridiculous. I mean, her, a woman? That's obviously a wig. You're not fooling anyone, Stuart. Surprise, surprise, she turns out to actually be Madame Piranha, who relays her information back to the doctor. John Pertwee then decides to use the real Kong instead, since the radiation can't short-circuit him. Absolutely brilliant. When they later gas Kong and take him away, they're briefly interrupted by the native man from before, who Tom Baker then shoots in cold blood. When Carl and crew arrive and note the destruction, they find the poor guy at near death, listening to his final words as he tells them what happened.
What'd he say?
He said that an oriental skeleton, a devil with eyes like a gutter rat, kidnapped Kong and took him away into the skies.
Whoa, okay, dude, you might want to lay off the wartime comics for a little while.
Remember, kids, Superman says you can slap a jab with wombats and stamps.
Well, anyway, Kong wakes up in Peter Davison's hideout next to Mechanic Kong while the Doctor and Madame Piranha have a meeting about their future plans.
Did you see our giant ape?
Hey, slow down, Romeo. At least let the lady finish her drink first. Colin Baker uses a mind control device to control Kong and has his henchmen kidnap Carl and his crew as a backup plan, assuming Susan can control Kong.
My Kong could never dig like that.
Says the Doctor with a great big smile after spending the first 10 minutes of the movie bragging about how awesome his robot is. Kong makes it all the way down to the mineral and starts digging, but he manages to break free of the mind control and rushes back to the base, only barely being kept out by a giant steel door. So naturally, Madame X tries to use her feminine charms to convince Carl to help them out. Of course, what with having been kidnapped and all, Carl's a little bit suspicious of suddenly being introduced to another, oriental skeleton.
What's your connection with Doctor Who?
I've been a fan since 1963. Carl naturally refuses to cooperate, forcing Sylvester McCoy to get a little bit more creative. In a surprisingly hardcore move for a movie like this, he starts to lower the temperature at Jiro and Susan's cell, and eventually threatens to disfigure Susan by pressing her face against the icy walls. Yikes. He's interrupted when a seriously pissed off Kong finally breaks into the base, however, and he and all of his men scatter in a panic. Kong escapes by jumping into the ocean and swimming towards Tokyo, which Paul McGann responds to by sending Mechanic Kong after him. However, Madame Piranha is not too happy about this turn of events.
If those two fight in Tokyo, thousands would get killed, and you and I know it.
You know, it would be a lot easier to take this sudden change of heart you're having seriously if you hadn't spent the entire first half of the movie complaining that your nukes aren't finished yet. Even Christopher Eccleston calls her out on this being utter bullshit.
Suddenly you're such a moralist. Tell us how come. Element X is a real killer. Not millions, not 10 millions. 100 or so millions will get killed this time.
It's just that my country. We can't stand an international incident right now.
So, let me just see if I got this straight. You're upset that two giant monsters are gonna fight in the middle of Tokyo and kill thousands because you're upset you don't get to bomb the US and Russia while they're doing it? It's probably supposed to be her switching sides because she's fallen in love with Carl or something stupid like that, but it's still just hilarious to me to hear this war-hungry bitch whine about how a giant ape fight is gonna ruin her nuke party. Now there's a rare sentence for you. Anyway, as Kong arrives in Tokyo, the Japanese army moves in to attack, but Carl convinces them to hold their fire in order to give Susan a chance to appeal to the giant ape. But of course, that's when Mechanicong arrives to kick some ass. And I finally have a good reason to use this song in a video. Hilariously, for what is supposed to be this superior robotic counterpart, Mechanicong fights like an absolute bitch. At first he uses the mind control device attached to his head to slow Kong down. Then when Jiro manages to shoot that off, the fucker starts using the bright lamps in its eyes to blind Kong over and over again. It's like the kaiju equivalent of that one shitty kid at summer camp who just got himself a laser pointer, and it's fucking priceless. I get that he's being controlled by a cowardly supervillain, but come on man, give us a real fight! Eventually, David Tennant decides to play even dirtier. He has Mechanicong pick up Susan and climb up Tokyo Tower, where he threatens to drop her if Kong does not come back to his base. But Kong ain't having that shit. After rescuing Susan and putting her in relative safety on Tokyo Tower, he climbs up the rest of the tower himself in order to battle Mechanicong at the top. You know, there's something strangely satisfying about this clip. It kinda looks like Kong is just done with all of this and is taking all his frustrations out on the robot. While Kong is giving his robotic counterpart what I can best describe as a waterless swirly, Madame Piranha tries to make her decision to be a good guy stick by threatening to shoot Matt Smith if he doesn't call Mechanicong off. Too bad for her that he, like all oriental skeletons about the age of 60, is a martial arts master. He eventually does get tired of showing off his mad kung fu skills though, and shoots Madame Piranha dead in what I guess is supposed to be some manner of heroic sacrifice. But since she manages to pull out some wires before she dies, the Doctor loses control of Mechanicong, who falls off the tower and shatters completely when he hits the ground. Peter Capaldi tries to escape in his ship, but a now safe and pretty pissed off Susan sicks Kong on him. And that's when the ape proceeds to tear the ship apart in fucking magnificent fashion. As the ship sinks due to Kong's rampage, the Doctor is crushed to death underneath his own control panel, killing him off for good. And as our heroes sail out to meet Kong and celebrate victory, he wanders back into the sea.
Kong! Kong! King Kong!
Don't call.
Yeah, let him go.
But he's going.
He's going home. I think he's had enough of what we call civilization.
Just like I've had enough of what you guys call a movie. And that's King Kong Escapes for you. I know you must be thinking I've left out a whole lot of stuff what with this video being so short, but honestly there really isn't much else to say about it. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely a fun little kaiju movie and it's certainly an amusing oddity in the history of King Kong, but I can't think of a better way to describe it than not quite crazy enough. I know they weren't necessarily intended as utterly goofy at the time, but half the charm of these 60s kaiju films are how nuts they can be. And you'd think with a movie about a giant ape fighting a giant robot in Tokyo, you'd get something a bit wackier. But while there's plenty of hammy supervillainy to enjoy, it takes entirely too long to get to the main event, and when it does it's way too short and somewhat anticlimactic. To be honest, I find the fight with Gorosaurus a lot more entertaining than the one with Mechanicong, which is a shame because he looks pretty awesome in that retro robot kind of way. Still, I wouldn't say it's awful. Sure, our protagonists have no personality whatsoever and it's slow in places, but it's still fun to see Kong beat the shit out of everything he sees. But let's just say that you probably have to be a kaiju fan already to enjoy this one. If you've never really been into these kinds of movies, this probably isn't the one that's gonna get anybody hooked. And if you really want to see a Japanese King Kong kick ass, there's always Godzilla vs. King Kong. But judging from the trailers, Kong Skull Island is, if not exactly good, certainly completely off its rocker. And I can't wait to see how crazy it gets for myself. Till next time, everybody. Peter Cushing, John Hurt. Hey guys, and thanks for watching me monkey around making fun of this movie. If you liked it, please press the like button and leave a comment. You can also subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this along with plenty of other good stuff, and you can find me on social media as well as support me on Patreon with more information about all of that in the description below. Thanks again and see you next time!